Okay, with that, our timer is telling us it is time to begin. And for those of you who just came in new, I'm going to go ahead and put the bucket list link for our icebreaker in the chat. Now, 4 times since today's a quick session, we have 2 results, so feel free to go ahead and continue turning those in, and we'll see those update in real time. But we see we have 3 standouts from our two participants so far. Oh, there we go. Now we're getting a couple more. So coming in top from this group, the majority of us would like to see the Northern Lights or live or buy a house abroad. And then coming in as our least favorite items, we have driving a supercar. I'm with you on that. So much money for like 2 minutes. And also major sporting events. Those are our 2 coming down in last. And then again, seeing the Northern Lights and buying a house abroad are our top favorites. So hopefully we can all then go see the Northern Lights in the next couple years. I'm hopefully going to Norway this next summer. So hopefully maybe I can get close-ish to the Northern Lights. So thank you everybody for playing along with our fun icebreaker. I love those. They're great to use at the beginning of class, either synchronous, asynchronous. And we have a ton of those that you can look through when you click the rocket ship from your toolbar on the left-hand side. Just search for icebreaker, only one breaker. If you add an S, they all disappear. And then you can look through and just add any of these pre-made icebreakers to the board, kickstart your lessons, get started, have some fun. All right, so now moving forward, we also have a couple people who are coming who are brand new. So just as a quick reminder, what is Lucid for Education before we hop into using it in health sciences specifically? Lucid for Education is a suite of 2 tools that you most likely have found inside of Canvas. But you can also access it outside of the Canvas learning management system as well, in case anybody is coming and joining this webinar not from a Canvas school. You can go directly to lucid.app and you can get into all of the resources and items that we're sharing today. You get both Lucid Spark and Lucid Chart. Lucid Spark is that collaborative virtual whiteboard. Lucid Chart is where you're going for more advanced diagramming, for process, procedure, flow charts, technical diagramming, different things like that. So just to highlight very quickly, Lucid Spark, you're thinking brainstorming, discussions, group work, and using that pen tool to write directly onto the canvas or on top of a PDF. And then skipping down to some examples specific to health sciences. So when we're thinking about Lucid Spark from the lens of nursing or any of those other health-related fields, we have a couple examples here. And I will share a link to this presentation right now so that everybody can have access to it. I am going to turn it to anyone with the link can view so that we don't edit it anymore. And then I'll grab that path link for you. Once you get this path link, I'll put it in an incognito window so you can see. You'll get a pop-up that asks if you want to follow the path, and you will click yes. And then this will bring you to the learning path where you can skip through some of our intros and then get right to our content. And the reason I'm sending this out is because this is where in the upper right-hand corner, it will give you links to templates and videos to go in to more depth on all of the items I am going over today. So I'm putting that link into the chat. Go ahead and click on it, save it somewhere so you can review all of the items that we're going over in more detail after today's session. And again, you have access to the chat. So as I'm going through these examples, feel free to ask any questions and I'm happy to answer those in the chat. So let's start with some inspiration from professors, instructors, teachers, in working in the health sciences. So this first example, Floridia uses this for walking her students through the SEM framework, getting students to analyze different use cases in order to see what other students are thinking, and then provide feedback and vote on which is the best idea related to the problem that they are facing. The next example is coming from Justin. He is a physical therapist instructor, and he utilizes this in a collaborative setting. He sends out the share link to all of the students. Everybody gets into the same board, and then they are using this as a prior knowledge brain dump. So everybody is coming to his classes with different levels of experience. Some have already worked in different doctor's offices or physical therapy offices, and they already know some of the different hand and wrist exercises that can be done when patients are coming in for that rehabilitation process. So he has all three of the three different, he labeled each of the different rehabilitation stages. And then he had all of the students add, okay, for these different stages, for hand exercises for this injury, what are some different exercises we should be doing during that rehabilitation process? So they're all adding those ideas. Then they're seeing what other students are writing and having a discussion. Oh, I used this when I was here, and I used this when I was here. And then at the end, the students can all walk away with a fully developed list of exercises that you can use for a specific condition during that rehabilitation process. And again, click the upper right-hand corner. That link will take you to the template and to the video where Justin is explaining it himself. This next example is coming from, they didn't want to give their name, but they shared with me how they were using it for case studies. And so in this example, the professor formulated a full case study where it had the labs, the notes from the doctor's exam and physical exam, all of their vital signs, all of the things related to the case study. And then they used the breakout boards inside of Lucid to divide each of the students up into their own breakout board space for collaboration. And while they're in there, the students were analyzing the case study, and then they had a list of questions that they needed to answer using the case study. So for this one, they were organizing all of that analysis and group work in one place. The next example is Kay would kickstart. He works with healthcare administration, and he wanted to kickstart a lesson and discussion and debate with a nice controversial topic, using an obesity responsibility poll where the students, similar to the icebreaker at the very beginning, where you were dragging and dropping all of on the continuum, your favorite bucket list item and your least favorite. This one, the students were dragging out each of the parties that could be responsible, then pulling up the data, and it's aggregating and averaging that so they can see the majority of us think that schools are responsible. The majority of us think that food manufacturing are responsible. Now let's dig into this deeper. This group, you guys said food manufacturers. You guys go into this breakout board, and I want you to do some research and find some data to back up your belief, and then be ready to present that to the class. So kind of kickstarting with a debate poll, then grouping the students based on their responses into separate breakout boards, again on the left-hand side, where they get their own whiteboard space to collaborate with their team, do some research, and then come back with some research, some justification to then have an even deeper and enhanced discussion related to this topic. Okay, this next one is coming from a dental assisting program where she uses this kind of to give the students vocab cards. So you can use this in a variety of ways where you give You can kind of do a jigsaw vocab activity where inside of one collaborative board, there are all of the words, and different groups or specific students are assigned to complete this four square definition card for the rest of the group. So everybody gets in and then either separated in breakout boards or separated in frames. Each student or group is assigned a couple vocab words. They complete each of the cards, and then we come back full group and do a quick, okay, we did this word, it means this, we did this word. And then again, collaboratively, they all divided up all of the vocabulary words for that unit that you're discussing, but now they can take everybody's responses. So instead of having to research and analyze all of them, everybody does a couple, and we can all walk away with a full vocabulary card document to study, practice, etc. Okay. The next example, and our last one for Lucid Spark, is TJ uses, again, another massage. This is a massage therapy instructor who utilizes our trivia boards to take when they're practicing for their exams that they need to pass, either class exams, certification exams, any of the exams that we know. There are a ton in if you want to participate in the health system for your career. So in this template, this is a Lucid template. They just go, he goes, I can't remember if TJ, so we'll just say they go in and they add all of the different questions. And then during either a webinar or a live session, the students go in and have a fun trivia review at the end to help review in a fun way everybody's examples, all those practice questions before they take their exam or certification. So those hopefully gave you a bunch of different examples, ideas. I see that we have a couple other people who have joined us. So I'm going to re-put in the link to this presentation, and you'll notice in the upper right-hand corner, there is a link that will bring you to that exact article where you can get the template and the video, hearing from the professor those specific ideas. So before we move in to Lucid Chart, any questions related to these specific ideas for inspiration? Today is mostly an inspiration session, and then we will do a more how-to. I'll show you some details on where you can go to if you're brand new. But here is that path again. So if you click that path, it will open up, and then in the upper right-hand corner, you have access to all of these templates and how-to videos. Okay, so now we're going to push into Lucid Chart and hopefully have a rapid fire idea inspiration for using Lucid Chart. Now, when we talked about Lucid Spark, we're thinking more collaboration, more brainstorming. Everybody is in the same place using Lucid Spark together. And then Lucid Chart is also collaborative, but a lot of times it's used in a more small group capacity or individual capacity for students to kind of keep track and support that learning process with thinking maps, graphic organizers or thinking maps, timelines, concept maps, process procedure, and then technical diagramming. So for our health sciences, we don't use it so much for the technical diagramming, but we do use it a lot for those process, procedure, and flow charting, since that is a huge component of any successful health-centered institution is good process and procedures. So looking at a couple examples, you'll see we have this professor was using it for patient care diagnosis. So helping students either get a write-up and then create this diagram to break out the crucial steps, or the professor has created this for them in order to help take a complex system that they're not actually doing day to day and give them step-by-step instructions that they can study and internalize. So example, they're coming in, a patient comes in, they have an arterial injury. What are the different step-by-step process that you need to do in order to diagnose and treat that patient? The next example are workflow diagrams, because along with having a lot of steps related to the medical care for a patient, you also have a lot of steps for the administrative staff. When the patient walks into an emergency room, a doctor's office, there are several different people, the administrative assistants, the nurses, the doctors, a lot of different people that they need to see. So what are some of those administrative workflows? Who is responsible for what, and what are all of those essential pieces? So just kind of visualizing and laying those steps out for all of your employees and your students to understand these processes going into an institution. Now, this one is coming from TJ again, and then TJ uses Lucid chart to help with anatomy flow charts. So for this activity, the students were thinking from a large scale, the organization of living matter. And then he used this to have the students, what he had was all of these different circles were over here on the left-hand side, as well as the pictures. And then the students were dragging them into the correct section on the diagram to build and review the organization of living matter from smallest to biggest. They were filling out this diagram, dragging over the images, and through this, they were able to, again, kind of visualize the different parts of the organization of living matter. The next example is exam prep. So for this one, Daniel, there's a large certification that all the students need to pass in order to then get their certificate for the MBLEX. And what he realized was a lot of times students were not going into that exam fully prepared, even though they had finished all the coursework. So he created this exam prep flow chart to help walk students through, all right, in order to be successful, these are all the things you need to do. And under each main category, here are all the sub steps that you should complete. And if you do everything in this exam prep process map, then you should be able to successfully complete the MBLEX exam at the end of the term. Okay, then we have good old concept maps and mind maps. For this one, I believe this was ADA dental codes, and there are a ton of codes related to a ton of things. So what this professor did was they had, again, all of the sticky notes out on the sides, and the students were dragging out each of these different dental codes into the correct category to sort them accordingly. And then they have one big image of all of these dental codes in one place that the students can walk away with and then study and hopefully internalize and memorize. And then last but not least, genograms. So we have a genogram template. So anytime that you might be talking about genealogy, family trees, kinship diagrams, you can easily accomplish that using our genograms template inside of Lucid. So hopefully that was a rapid fire of inspiration. How do I get started using Lucid specifically in health sciences? Now we're going to take a backtrack now that hopefully you've had some inspiration. Those of you who are brand new, we'll go ahead and do some basics of where do you go to get started in case you're brand new. And I believe we probably have a bunch of people coming from Canvas users. So those of you who might be coming from Canvas, we're going to focus on Canvas first. And then if there's anybody here who is not from Canvas, please let me know in the chat, and then I will let you know. We can kind of go over how to access your Lucid account outside of Canvas if you're not using that as your learning management system. So first off, for those of you who are brand new, you start in Canvas and you log in just like you're used to. Once you are logged into Canvas, you and your students will see that there is the Lucid whiteboard icon on the left-hand side of any of your courses. And this is where you can go to access your Lucid dashboard. So anytime you want to get in, search templates, create new things, just click on the Lucid whiteboard and it will take you into your Lucid dashboard. Now, this is where I'll show some of those templates. I highlighted specifically some templates related to health sciences, but I didn't go over all of them. So if you're looking for more resources related to health sciences, once you're in your Lucid dashboard and you come down to the templates section on the bottom left-hand side, this will give you access to even more templates than were in my presentation today. You can come down and click on the education section, click on higher ed, and then you can search by key term, or you can scroll through and you can see all of the different templates that have been given to us by other professors or instructors. And you can preview it with the eyeball, hit use, get your own copy, and you can start customizing that template to utilize within your course. So for example, let's find, let's say, oh, this was a good one. We had, because I know with nursing, there's always going to be some conflict resolution. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this one. And this is actually coming from, I can't remember who this came from, so what degree, but basically they're saying in the workplace with patients, there's going to be conflict, or in the workplace with other colleagues, there's going to be conflict. So what are some different ways that you can go through and use this conflict resolution chart to chart out that conflict? So what the professor did was and they just used sticky notes. They pulled out sticky notes and they would write up a potential conflict. And then each of the students would come in and they would fill out and answer these questions. So is it a in the small conflict, they would write the description of the conflict. They would always think throughout that resolution process, be respectful, be specific, and how it affects others. So they would walk through the process and they would answer these questions. So how can you handle this conflict in a respectful way? So they'll think about the conflict listed and they will double click in here and write up how they can respond in a respectful way. Then they keep moving down the chart. How can they take that respectful prompt and make it specific? So it kind of will envision that I want my students to walk through this example. I have given them the write-up. And now for this one, I want each student to get their own copy. So I have, let's say I make a couple versions. So this will be conflict 1. And then in the bottom, I'm going to click the 3 dots and I'm going to duplicate this tab and I'm going to name this conflict 2. And then again, I would add a new conflict here. So I could add as many different activities using the tabs along the bottom. And I want to use this same template, but you could always just add a new tab and not have it have the same process. But now that my template's done, I'm going to call it course 202 conflict assignment. I want each student to get their own copy of this. So now that I've generated my template, I'm going to come into my Canvas course and I'm going to go through modules or through assignments wherever you go to assign content to students. I'm going to click on the assignment button in the upper right-hand corner, name it, and then you easy peasy come down to submission type and come down to Lucid as your submission type. Click on the Lucid button that pops up so you can select your template. And this was a Lucid chart template. So I'll select Lucid chart and hit next. I could put a blank document, but I have a template I will click on that and now select it from my dashboard, either nestled nicely in a folder or from my recent at the bottom. Now, what this does is each student, when they open up their Canvas page, will get their own copy of this activity. They will complete it. And then when I go into SpeedGrader, it will give me both a frozen PDF of what they submitted, or it'll give me a live link and I could click on that and actually get into their actual Lucid document if I need to view it in more detail. I have both options inside of SpeedGrader. And then for those of you for Lucid Spark, where we want the students to be collaborating, the difference for your collaborative activities, you would open a page, a discussion, wherever the rich content editor lives. You can click on the black L from the rich content editor, click on the plug if you don't see a black L, and look for the Lucid Embed option. And then you can either choose a Lucid board you've pre-created for this activity, or you can just click the plus new button in the upper left-hand corner and come down and add a blank Lucid Spark board, leave it with edit permissions. And now this will embed a Lucid Spark board directly on the page. So all your students, when they come to this page, they will all go into the exact same Lucid Spark board. When they drag out a sticky note, everybody sees it. When I drag out a sticky note, everybody sees it. The black L will give you that collaborative experience embedded directly on the page, and you can utilize it without ever even leaving Canvas. Now, I know some of you had come, so that was review for you, but some of you were beginner. So the last thing for this last minute, if you are wondering, where can I go to access additional resources? Because I'm brand new, I got some ideas now on how to use it for nursing and health sciences. Where can I go to really learn some more basics? This link is your big bookmark link that you want to save someplace safe. This is kind of like in Lord of the Rings. It is, instead of the one ring to rule them all, it is the one website to rule all of our resources. You have use cases. So again, if you come into the higher ed use cases, there is a whole section on health sciences that will pull out even more examples than we went over today. Same thing with the community and the blog. These are all great places for inspiration. And then if you go into the Canvas support section, there are videos and tutorials specific for students. And under the instructor section, there's guides, videos, and an asynchronous Lucid and Canvas course that will walk you through all of the basics. So I will also put the course in here because that's really, I think, the best place to go to get started. Okay, and I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, everyone.